Okay, so for everyone online, thank you so much for joining us today. And what a great day to be starting our Revenue Ready series when we got some fantastically positive news yesterday about a potential vaccine. So let's hold that thought that it's going to come, and it's just around the corner. And I think we've all been very resilient, or you guys have all been really resilient, and I think it's something really positive to look forward to. But on that note, who more positive to have starting our Revenue Ready series but the wonderful Sally. I think most of you know Sally, and if you don't mind, I'm just going to read off this because I just want to get your kind of intro off pat, Sally, so I don't miss anything.
Yeah, sure.
This is the second time that Sally has very kindly given up her time, so thanks so much for that, Sally.
No problem.
Most of you know her, phenomenal Sally Richards, but just a quick intro for those who might not. Sally has started her career in travel and hospitality as a travel agent, moving into airline and then into tour operating before working with hotels directly, working for UTEL and holding down a series of senior roles. Sally then went on to form Raspberry Sky to help hotels understand the complexity of distribution and pricing, something that still to this day confuses me, so thank you for that, Sally. But over the years, her services have evolved into commercial roles, project management, system procurement, and using tried and tested approaches and using experienced specialists. So we're really delighted that you can join us, Sally, and you are so respected in the industry and a great speaker, and just delighted you could be with us today. But before we get started, for those of you who may have joined our Ask the Expert series in the past, this is slightly different. So we have a whole series of webinars, and I think at the moment we are up to 21 speakers which have confirmed and given their time very generously for free to talk hotels through every single aspect of what revenue touches through every single department, from digital to web design to social media to actually rate setting, how to manage weddings and food and beverage and everything. So we've got this plethora of series actually confirmed. So we're going to do one a week. We are going to store all of the recordings of these and actually keep them as a resource within our website, so they won't be out on social media. Generally, therefore, be for the people who actually committed the time to join us. And we just wanted to give something back to this amazing industry by organising these sessions and hopefully get you guys geared up for what we now know is going to be a really positive outlook for the spring, and at least it's something for us all potentially just to hold under our hats and get ready for. So that's kind of where we are with Revenue Ready. We'd love you to join us every week. The sessions are all on our website. I'm very happy to send you out all the links, but you can see the next sessions that we have up until Christmas, and I will announce the January and February sessions over the coming few days. I'm going to let Sally kick off because you have a lot of content, Sally, and a lot of great stuff. But I guess one question from me, maybe just to kind of set the scene up, because I know you've got phenomenal stuff to go through today. We're going to talk about being revenue ready, and for me that always starts with your landscape and your technology, and I know that's what you're going to touch on. But how do we understand what heavy lifting that we need that technology to do? And I guess, where do you see technology now and in the future, and what should that landscape actually look like? So that's kind of my question, and I know you're going to answer a lot of that today, but that's kind of, for me, setting the scene on what we're going to cover. But just to get your thoughts generally on where we are.
I think technology is a funny one, because actually the way that I look at it is it's the pipes, it's the enabler for you to put your revenue strategy over, or your customer journey, etc. But it's the foundation of your business, and if it's not set up correctly or best of breed, there are points of failure and manual intervention that cause the friction in your business and ultimately affect what we've historically known as customer journey. But as we move now into, you know, COVID times and contactless and needing to digitalize more of that customer journey, if you don't have the right technology in place, it inhibits your ability to do that. There are lots of third-party solutions that can help with that, but a lot of the times it's not very elegant, it's not very brand specific. So I think if it's about like building a house, isn't it? If you get the foundations right and then you build upon it, everything kind of comes together. But choosing the right technology can be complicated. It can be an investment. You know, a lot of us have legacy systems in place, and I think sometimes there's a fear of removing that piece of technology and the impact that might have to your business. But I would say over the last, 3-4 years, I think the landscape has changed dramatically. And now there are opportunities to change your technology. And you may find, one, it's more cost efficient, it's not as expensive as you think, and it will enable you to have a much more operationally efficient journey. So I find technology really interesting. I love it, obviously, my background. But I think from my perspective, it's the pipes that enable you to really delight your customer. And it's something the customer should not be aware of. It should just enable you to, you know, operate the business how you want to in the most efficient way. So, yeah, we'll talk a bit about that. Yeah.
Perfect. I suppose, Sally, from my point of view, just before you jump in, I guess for me, when I'm talking to hotels at the minute, like when I use the word a clever hotelier, I don't mean that disrespectfully to anyone else, but some of the hotels that are doing really clever stuff at the moment are taking this time, because they're never going to have it again. They've never had it before. They're never going to have it again, to actually just stand back and look at their technology and look at where everything sits, and how to make that customer journey better and how to make them more efficient. So I think if we hold on to that thought, we may have a limited amount of time before we get back to normal, hopefully next spring. So now this could be an opportune time just to take that moment, to take a breath, to stand back and have a look at how we future-proof our business and not be reliant sometimes on systems just because we have to, but because there could be something really exciting out there that we should be considering. So I'm going to stop talking and I'm going to hand over to you and let you get into your content, because I know there's a lot there, which is great. So thanks, Sally.
Yeah, no problem at all. Absolute pleasure. Always happy to support you. It's no
okay. And again, guys, just jump in if you have any questions. I'll keep an eye on the questions, and I'm very happy if you'd like to speak to Sally. Just let me know and I can make that happen as well.
Yeah, and I'm more than happy to take questions. As I said, ideally it's great for this kind of thing to be interactive. It's not always the way when we're remote, but please, if you have a question or anything, please just fire away. So I'm just going to share my screen, make sure I pick the right one. Okay. So, as Adrienne said, this is the sort of the kickoff, I guess, of the Get Ready Success workshops that Right Revenue are putting together. And when we chatted about some of the different workshops or webinars and what was going to be covered, we decided it would be really good to put together a framework, if you like, of distribution that sort of everything else can hang off. So whether you're looking at your brand.com or your M&E strategy or your weddings or your revenue management piece, where does that sit in the overall kind of landscape, and what technology do you ideally need to support that? So the purpose of this workshop, I used to be a trainer, so apologies if it's very framework based, but anyway, so what is it we're trying to achieve? So when I reviewed my deck yesterday, actually, I realized that we hadn't mentioned anything about the difference in distribution and how that's changed over the years. So we're going to have a quick, just one slide look at distribution. What does it mean today? and what channels does it include? Because having been in distribution most of my working life, it's evolved greatly over time and obviously accelerated into social, etc. in the last couple of years. But primarily what we're looking to do is to understand what a best of breed system landscape looks like. So when people talk about technology stack or what systems do you have, really what I'm interested in is how do they all tie together? So do they interface? Are they one-way or two-way interface? Is it a manual intervention? And if it is, what does that mean from an efficiency and cost perspective? So really looking at how the landscape can support your strategy, and what are the functional components you need to consider. So what are the different disciplines within the business that you need to look at, and how can that be supported, and where does that overall fit in the landscape? So the new buzzword everyone says, we all call tech stack. It's your technical debt or your technical stat. Your technical debt is basically your legacy systems and costs that you have versus just the stack, which is all of your systems together. And interestingly, I think, to Adrian's point earlier, is this whole cost of distribution piece. And I know that's something, true to your heart, Adrian, in terms of your system. But the more boxes you have in your landscape, basically, the more cost-based primarily you could have, and the more points of failure you could have. So it's really important to understand how they interface, or if they do interface, and what any manual intervention piece is. So the benefit of interfacing versus manual management. And as I mentioned earlier, it's all about how the systems are the enabler for your business. So, the technology piece should underpin your strategy and your customer journey. So the other word that's come out through COVID is this frictionless customer journey. And recently I've been doing some research around digital maturity and digital customer journey. And I've been interviewing some of the major hotel brands, global chains, regional brands, etc. And one of the issues and challenges they have is their technology. Their technology doesn't enable them to offer a frictionless customer journey because they can't digitize it. So it's becoming more and more important now in terms of the technology that you put in place. And I wanted to have an open discussion, which we probably won't have, but I mean, I think if you have any questions, then post them, and Adrian will, we can discuss those. In terms of a takeaway, what I'm going to give you is an example of a best of breed system landscape in terms of the types of product and systems that you should be looking at and how it can connect. What vendor you choose to use in those boxes is dependent on the size and scale of your business, but it will hopefully give you what I would call like a blueprint for you to take away. And Adrian, I'm quite happy for you to just send that slide out to people who have attended, so that you can, print it out on a piece of paper and look at it and go, right, well, what does mine look like? So it will help you identify your gaps and use it as a blueprint to say, okay, well, where is best of breed and where am I not achieving that? And obviously through the course of the workshops to identify a better way for you to approach your system. So that's kind of what the next 45 minutes is all going to be about. Okay, so I just put this slide in yesterday because when we talk about distribution, back in the day, because I've been in distribution all my life, so the GDSs were quite sophisticated almost back then. And then, the internet explosion, and then we had OTAs. But actually, in the last few years, the whole social explosion piece, the Google players, the Twitters, all of that has conversed together. So when we talk about distribution, we should really think about all of that or any way that you distribute what I call your ARI, so your availability rates and inventory, is what I would categorize as your distribution. So the term the travel and hospitality industry uses for how availability rates and inventory are delivered, or flip it, how the bookers book you. So whether that's through Facebook, or whether that's through a Google search, whether it's an OTA, or whether it's a corporate booking tool like an Agencia or a GDS or whatever, you know, that is all distribution, and it has consolidated and grown over the years. And the social piece, I think, has been really interesting, and I know future workshops will look at that whole digital piece as well, and where does brand.com fit within all of that. You know, in distribution, from my perspective, good distribution strategy should be one where you're not reliant on any one channel solely. So, you know, having a good mix spreads the risk in terms of distribution in normal times, not in perhaps so much in COVID times. But technology impacts what tools are available and how the industry and bookers interact with you and shop. So the type of connectivity that you have and the way you connect to channels through your distribution landscape will affect the way that you get the business, and maybe how that channel views your availability rates and inventory. But there are many niche players in the market, so there are now lots of specialists. You know, you might have a wedding specialist, you know, dog-friendly travel website, whatever. Equally, within the distribution landscape, you have what I would call CRS providers, central reservation system providers, that are niche, that overlay sales and marketing and branding. People like leading hotels of the world, preferred hotels of the world, small luxury. In my view, they're all Repco companies, but they offer added value services, also companies like Hotel Res, etc. But they're offering connectivity as the heart of what they're doing, and I'll show you where that fits in a moment. And understanding how they all work together helps you understand the cost associated. So as I said earlier, every box has a cost associated. So the lower number of boxes you have and working smartly in an interfaced way is the most generally cost-effective way. So let me just move on to the next slide. So this hopefully will become clear as we go through. So the green boxes, the green parts, are the bits that are going to be covered in the Right Revenue webinars. So these are the bits that Adrienne is working on in her 20+ webinars to a greater level of detail. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take you through the systems and how they connect and why it's important in terms of the way that they interface. So hopefully this isn't too horrific for you, but anyway, let's start here. So PMS, your property management system. For most of you, this will be the heart of your business. This will be where your 100% of your inventory sits. This is your single version of the truth. This is exactly where you know what availability, rates, pricing you have, etc. And it will sit in your system, at your property, obviously. Now, there are lots of different PMSs, and I'm not going to get too vendor specific, but only to say with the property management systems that the cloud-based offerings are really where you should be looking to invest if you haven't already done so. So the reason that a cloud-based PMS is good, because it is flexible. It enables you to interface with third-party systems much easier. And even as an independent hotel, it will give you more flexibility. And particularly as it relates to the customer digital journey, it will enable you to have a more frictionless process. So you will have heard probably of companies like Apaleo, Muse, Opera Cloud,
Guestline, Protelair, to name but a few. There are many. And some PMSs which are more country specific based cloud-based PMSs. But getting the right PMS and taking this time now to review your PMS and say, is it best of breed? Can it deliver the kind of guest journey that I want to deliver? And asking those questions. And if it's not, then thinking about, well, what are the alternatives? And we'll touch on that in just a moment.
Ellie, can I just stop you there for one second? We have a really good question from Suzanne. Do you find that flexibility outweighs the loss of functionality with cloud systems? Will cloud-based protect the integrity of your data? So basically, two questions there. Do you think we're losing some flexibility or functionality on the cloud?
Yeah, shall I answer that first? So absolutely yes. In the last, 2 years ago, we put in a cloud-based system for a full-service hotel, and it just didn't work.
Okay.
So it had, I think, if you're a full-service hotel, particularly M&E, then historically, those systems are not mature enough in terms of functionality. But there's a couple of things here, right? So one, I think, depending on the type of property that you are, and it really goes down to identifying what your business requirements are and what's absolutely critical versus nice to haves, is there are now some quite good integrations with some of the cloud-based PMSs for S&C, M&E type of products. So it's definitely, like Ivy and people like that, it's definitely worth having a look at those and sort of saying, if you're M&E, then does that meet your requirements? Because that was a big barrier for us previously. Opera is bringing out their cloud-based solution relatively soon, so that will be in Q1 next year. They hope to bring out their cloud-based system, which won't be as rich in functionality as a v5.5. But, from my experience, not everybody uses all the functionality of those systems anyway. So it's certainly worth having a look at that. But previously, yes, the cloud-based systems were not mature enough to deal with a full service property. I think that's changing. And I think either through third-party partnerships, you can now pull in some of that functionality, or through looking at next-gen cloud-based systems such as the Opera Cloud, where they will be able to support the typical S&C.
Yeah, I have to agree with you, Sally. And in the years of when I was looking at technology for hotels, there was a thought there that you needed to buy everything of one provider and have all your eggs in one basket. And I think even back in those days, I always felt, no, you should really buy the best of breed and pull that in. And as long as that integration is happening really well within your PMS, then, if it means for M&E or your booking engine or your channel management that you have to look to other providers, then that's not a bad place to be. It's okay to link to other providers to get the solution that suits you best. But Suzanne,
the key if I can just say, the key to anything relating to systems is to document your business requirements. I can't stress that enough. A good salesperson can sell you anything and it looks sexy, it looks great, but the reality is you really need to document all of your business requirements from all of the different disciplines across the property that use the system to say, what does it do today? What's really important? What could we live without? And then send that to the vendor and say, look, these are the things we really need. Tell me, can you support that today? If so, show me, in a demo, show me those really, and you can hide the critical elements. You don't need to share that with the vendor, but get them to demonstrate and show you the things that are absolutely critical, because the sales pitch is always good. But, sometimes it's not until you get down to the implementation that you go, oh, hey, hang on a sec, it doesn't do X. And at that point, it's too late. Yeah. So documenting your business requirements is absolutely crucial.
Yeah, I completely agree. The last part of that question, Sally, is will the cloud protect the integrity of your data? Is your data going to be safe in the cloud?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of these guys are using AWS, Amazon Web Services. It's completely compliant. There are no GDPR issues, etc. So I think you can be confident as long as you're working with one of the reputable providers that yes, absolutely. I haven't seen any issues.
Okay, no, I agree with that. So I'm going to let you crack on, but please do feel free just to drop in any other questions, or just raise your hand and I can make sure that your mic is turned on if you'd like to talk to Sally directly, but I'll let you go on, Sally.
Yeah, no problem. So the property management system, so we've touched on that. Now the PMS is the beating heart of your property. So it needs to interface with a few different elements. So the point of sale, which is your F&B tool, so when you're in your restaurant, your bar, the ability for the customer who is in-house to have a beer, have a glass of wine, have a meal, bill it back to Folio, bill it back to their room. The point of sale needs to interface into the PMS, and it's a one-way interface into the PMS. And what I've realized just recently doing this digital maturity project is that if the point of sale cannot integrate with the digital journey on here. So if I'm in my room and I want to have a look at the room service menu, I want to be able to do it on my phone. I want to be able to order and bill it on my phone back to my room. This point of sale needs to integrate into the PMS, yeah? So in a few cases I've had, there's a point of sale that may be standalone, it may not interface, or it may not be a point of sale that is compatible with a third-party app to do the digital journey. So the point of sale, I think, is becoming more and more important as we move forward, as we try to digitalize the journey. So point of sale interfacing into PMS is pretty key now. Call management service, if you have, telephones in the bedrooms, then you would want to be able to bill for calls. I'm not sure that's such a biggie these days. I don't even notice when I go in a hotel room, although I haven't done that a lot this year, whether there is a phone or not now, because most people use their mobile. So, but if you have a call management system, obviously the calls need to be logged into the PMS onto the Folio. One of the biggies is the finance system. So this can either be an interface, or quite often it's like what we call a back office file extract. So it's an automated file from the PMS, sits on a FTP site and is pulled into the finance system on a daily basis. It doesn't matter whether it's an extract file or whether it's an interface. But it should be automated. It should be, there should be no manual inputting of data into the finance system, yeah? And most of the PMSs have that kind of ability. It will depend on what finance system you're using as to what that looks like. But there should be some automated kind of way that data is plugging into the finance system. And then there's other interfaces at property, depending on the type of property that you have. The key one is the key. The more important one is the key system interface, because again, thinking back to digital journey, the ability for your customer to check in online, to get their key, to be able to, access their room, etc. If that's the type of property you are, then the key system door lock element is really important now, and how that interfaces into the PMS. And then you have, so that's really the sort of on property based system piece. And then if we go above here, the good old revenue management system. So if you have a revenue management system, ideally it's two-way. So you are pushing data up into the revenue management system, and the revenue management system is pushing decisions back into the PMS system. Yeah, so it's a two-way cycle. Some RMS systems also can update here to the CRS at the same time as the PMS, and that may or may not be something that you want to look at. but I think as part of the workshops that Right Revenue are running, they're going to be looking at not just room revenue, but total revenue. So looking at your F&B and your M&E, and I know they're part of future sessions. But the other thing that's really important for a revenue management system is the ability to take third-party data into the system for benchmarking purposes and market intelligence. So things like market share, that may be something like an STR feed, rate shopping. So what are your comp set doing in terms of rate, because that will go into the overall algorithm. So, you know, there's a lot of people out there sort of, you know, Rate 360, OTA Insights, that sort of thing. But also reputation management. So we know that hotels that have a good score in reputation management, be that on their own brand.com, TripAdvisor, etc., Google, etc., can command a higher rate. There's been research done to prove that. So a reputation management feed into your RMS as well is something that you can look at as a one-way feed. And obviously Right Revenue is a really good revenue management system.
It's the best revenue management, Sally. Honestly, just say the best and that's leave it at that. I'm joking.
Well, yeah. So apart from Right Revenue, there are a couple of other systems, obviously. So there are the biggies, which is Ideas G3 and Duetto, yeah. But there are also ones like Pace and Atomize and things like that. And you can search online and find all of those. So that's the revenue management system, primarily interfacing with the PMS. That's kind of key. Depending on the size and scale of hotel or group you are, you may also push that out to the CRS as well. Then we have underneath here the good old M&E. So if you're a meeting and event hotel, weddings, you know, events, groups, etc., then a piece of kit that manages that can do your check your rates and availability. This is what your sales office kind of would use to check events, block events, hold space, meeting space, as well as bedrooms. That should interface with the PMS as well for the rooms piece. If you don't have it interfacing, then you are asking your team to do duplication. So they'll block, they'll put something in the M&E system to say I'm holding rooms, and then they'll have to go into the PMS and hold the rooms, yeah? And then if they release them, they have to go and do that separately. So a system that's interfacing between the two means that you can pull those room blocks back, and as the status changes, it updates the PMS, and if it releases and it doesn't go ahead, it auto releases and things like that. So an M&E system for a full service hotel that is a meetings and event is an absolute must. And I think you've got somebody who's going to be talking about that in a lot more detail in one of the future sessions. So these systems can, for instance, produce your proposal. So it's templated based, produce the proposal, send the contracts, etc., etc. So has all the back office system then that can go to the kitchens for the F&B side, etc. And so becomes a complete succinct kind of, you know, system that is everything M&E. And if you're an M&E hotel, you'll know you absolutely need that. CRM. Again, this is becoming, I mean, it has always been important, but we've always struggled with CRM as an industry because the data that we get in here is not necessarily clean. And we have a lot of duplicate profiles, and we don't always do the lookup when we're making a booking at property, and we'll do another Sally Richards profile, etc. So because the generally what happens is a feed from the PMS into the CRM, and this is where you could perhaps do some of your merge and purge, etc. But the objective of a CRM is to have a single version of the truth for your customer. So, you know, how often does Sally Richards stay at the hotel? Typically, what room do I like? When do I stay? Do I stay on my own? The ability to have multiple personas. So if I travel for business, this is what I like. But if I travel as with my husband, then this is what my stay duration and the things I purchase might be. But if I go with my family, maybe I have 3 different personas. And the CRMs are really sophisticated these days in terms of functionality, and most of them have an output mechanism for your mailing. So, you know, and again, there are a lot of different vendors on the market. You've got Sendine being, you know, one which is travel specific, You're Welcome, One Square, etc. So there's a lot of different vendors out there. So again, with all of these systems, think about what your business requirements are before you engage with any vendor, so that you can benchmark whether they're going to be fit for purpose. But the CRM is becoming more important again with digital journey. So the ability to anticipate when the customer might travel, the ability to target them with personalized offers, or maybe types of offers that are relevant to them, as opposed to just pushing out any old communication that you want. So that one size fits all, we've got a great weekend rate going out to everybody, is no longer acceptable. If somebody never stays with you at a weekend, they potentially don't want the weekend rate. So being able to slice and dice your customer base so that you can target them in a way they want to be targeted with the messages that are relevant is really important. And the digital piece can also pull on that in terms of recognizing them. So if they came onto brand.com and logged in, it may be well be pulling from the CRM that recognition, etc. So CRM is important in terms of understanding your customer. If we go back up to the PMS here, so the central reservation system, if you like, is your distribution engine. This is the piece of kit that basically supports all of this part of the right-hand side of the screen. Yeah, so this is everything going out to, this is your selling engine. This is where all your rates and inventory are sitting that you are going to distribute out to the relevant channels that we talked about on the previous slide. For me, it's imperative that this is a two-way interface with the PMS. Now, this may or may not be the case for you, depending on the size of hotel you are. But if you are I'll give 2 scenarios. If you're a city centre hotel and, 2019, let's talk that, your business was highly dynamic and you had a revenue management system, if this was an interface, then this PMS would never have a single version of the truth in terms of the pace of your business. Therefore, your revenue management system wouldn't be able to make the right decisions and recommendations because it doesn't have the information, the live information, the dynamic information. Therefore, the interfacing of the CRS to the PMS is absolutely critical if you're having a revenue management system. If you're in a secondary tertiary location and your business is less dynamic and is slower, you could potentially manage this manually, but it is a huge resource eater. So if you have to manually go in or get emails to say you've got a booking, you've got a booking, you've got a booking, and then you print them off and then somebody sits down and then they manually put them into the PMS, it's time consuming. Now, if you're running at low occupancies, it's not such a big deal. But when you start to run at, optimized levels, then this is where your point of failure will be if you don't interface between the two. And with the cloud-based PMSs, this is not such a big issue now as it was. In the legacy days of PMSs, when they used to charge you £10,000 to interface to something, ridiculous, or even more, with the cloud-based PMSs, this is more cost-effective, more easier to do than it has been before. So certainly something to look at in terms of automation between the two. And then you have the central reservation. The central reservation system, let's just touch on some of the vendors for this then. So these basically are vendors that provide connectivity out to channels. So there are people like TravelClick, there are people like HotelRes, The Edge, Pegasus, Busy Rooms, as I said before, leading hotels of the world, small luxury hotels, Preferred, Relais Chateau. Their proposition is fundamentally this, and being able to distribute out, but they're adding on sales and marketing opportunities as well. So they may well have the branding. So if you're leading or a Preferred, or you have the, you know, the bronze plaque on the door, and you have the directory, and, you know, and they do demand generation for you, but through the brand. So you have CRS providers that are connectivity, people like Sabre Synexis, HotelRes, TravelClick, The Edge, but they have all got different propositions in terms of the value-added services. So if you're looking for a new CRS, as what I would call a repco, a representation company, there is lots of different scenarios out there in terms of options for you. And the way to evaluate that is, how do they connect out to channels, and what channels do they connect with, and validating that against the channels that are important to you. Because what you want to ensure is that you have an interface to the channels that you can, and you really don't want any manual channel management, because that's just, it's just labor intensive, points of failure, all of that sort of thing. So a CRS will definitely interface you to the GDSs, so your Sabre, Amadeus, WorldSpan, Travelport. Sabre, Amadeus, Travelport is Galileo and WorldSpan together. So that's one company, two GDSs, then Amadeus, then Sabre, and Pegasus, the Pegasus switch. So when the CRS basically distributes to the GDSs, the majority of cases, 95% of the cases, they go through something called the Disco switch, which is the old Fisco switch, which basically just maps the CRS language into GDS language, and vice versa. And you'll find that most CRS providers will give you a price per transaction to connect to the GDS and Pegasus, and it will include the Disco switch fee within that. But that generally is not what we would call a direct connect. We would say that is a connectivity through the switch. In the future, I think we will see that some of the CRSs will offer connectivity not through the switch. And the only reason for us that's attractive is cost, really. It just takes another player out of the chain, and it enables maybe some more efficiency. But if you were Marriott, that might be really important. If you're an independent hotel, to be perfectly honest, it's not a big decider for you. You know, as long as you've got connectivity through to the GDS. To be honest, if you're a smaller hotel, the Disco switch doesn't really matter, but I just wanted to point out that it's different. So for me, in terms of best of breed, in terms of distribution, your largest channels, the largest in terms of production, I believe that you should direct connect those rather than going through a third-party channel manager. And the reason for that is that the big players can get direct availability rates and inventory from your CRS without having to go through a channel manager. And sometimes your ability to display rates and restrictions is more flexible in a direct connect than it would be through a channel manager because of all the mapping, etc. So for me, channels like Booking.com and Expedia, if it's available to you, I would always direct connect that into the central reservation system, into your repco, your GDS partner, if it's available. You might find that the transaction fee is higher doing it this way, but based on my knowledge and experience, if you were to evaluate the cost of manually managing that channel, having to data input, it far outweighs that. So Booking.com and Expedia, the way that you get more business through those guys is to direct connect if you can. And then from your CRS, you have an interface, we call it an IBE, an Internet Booking Engine, to your brand.com. So this is your own website, yeah? Now you can have your brand.com interface coming into your PMS. Sometimes that is the case, you know, and that's absolutely fine. But in most cases, it kind of comes through the central reservation system. Now you can use the booking engine that is provided by the central reservation system that you're working with, so the HotelRes, the TravelClick, the Edge, Pegasus, etc. Or you can develop your own, you know, through a third-party agency. But this is brand.com, and I know you've got a separate session on how to optimize brand.com.
Can I just ask, sorry to interrupt you there, I've just got a one-on-one question there from someone asking where SiteMinder would sit in all of that?
Yeah, so here. So this is Channel Manager. Okay. So this is where I get a bit topical, I guess, because what happens, so your channel manager, so that is your SiteMinder, RateGain, RateTiger. I mean, there are loads of channel managers out there. So for me, you should use your channel manager to support what I call your long tail of channels. So your biggies, I would always recommend put on a direct connect. And then everything else. So if you're dealing with another 5, 10, 15, 20 plus channels, oops, a daisy. Sorry, just see, press the button. Manage that through a channel manager. So a channel manager is going to charge you a monthly fee, probably irrelevant of the number of transactions or bookings that come in. Now, if you're working with a channel manager, again, a two-way interface between the CRS and the channel manager. Now, what I have seen more recently, and a lot of repcos are doing this, is they're changing these boxes over. They're putting the channel manager between the PMS, and then the CRS is downstream of the channel manager. And I just don't agree with that approach, because this is driving the heart of your business. So you want your brand.com, your big channels, and your GDS to pull directly from the CRS. And the reason for that is if you've got if GDS is historically a prime channel for you, and you've got neg rate, you know, preferred rates loading, if you change this around here where the PMS feeds this channel manager, the channel manager feeds the CRS, and the CRS feeds the Pegasus, you know, the GDSs, you have more challenges and issues with, you know, agents calling saying, I can't access my rate, I can't look at my rate, you know, the rate isn't available, etc. Because the channel manager is having to dumb down, do the mapping, and it's just not as elegant as the CRS feeding the GDSs directly and the booking.coms. So in my opinion, I always want the channel manager to be downstream of the CRS. Yeah, so the CRS updates the channel manager updates your long tail of channels. And ideally, that should be two-way. So when the bookings are made, they come into the CRS and into the PMS. There's no manual intervention. Yeah. Now, a lot of hotels don't have an interface here. Yeah. So if they're smaller hotels, so what happens is when somebody makes a booking on HRS or one of these channels, they will get an email to say a booking is made. They'll pull it off. And then what they'll do is they'll manually load it in here. Now that's okay if you've got 5 or 6 bookings a day. But once you get to 50, 60 plus bookings, that becomes an onerous task. And as I said before, if you've got a revenue management system, there's no way that this PMS is ever going to be up to date. So you need to interface your channel manager with your CRS. And in most cases, the repcos will offer you that. That will be standard functionality. They will have a preferred channel management tool. They might have their own integrated into the CRS and the channels that they support. So again, really important, go back to your business requirements, understand exactly what it is, what channels that you are working with, and make sure they are supported by the CRS through a channel manager. I put one down here, just a channel all on its lonely self. That's a manual one. So you're manually going in, updating availability rates, and then you're manually pulling bookings off and putting them into the PMS. That is, for me, is worst case scenario. So I'm just conscious of time. RFP tool, there's sort of a lot of the CRS providers will have an integrated RFP tool. It might be Lanyon. I know that some of them still use the old Trust, like WorkX, etc., and ShareX systems. But this is where you would load your content for traditional corporate RFPs, so that that information could be automated and rates can be negotiated using a tool as opposed to manually through email and things like that. So on the right hand side here, so it's green, this is where your B2B, this is where your customers sit. So everything downstream of here is where your customers and bookers are sitting. Yeah. So this is about making sure that you've got the right product placement on all of these channels so that you're easy to do business with. So I know in some of the next workshops, you're going to be talking about online, offline marketing, meta search, social media. That's all about ensuring that your message is consistent and that your price and product placement is absolutely supporting that. So remember, these are the pipes that enable you to present. They are not the marketing, you know, you need to do all of the other offline, online marketing elements to drive that business into your funnel, yeah? So down the bottom here, you're going to be looking at strategy and optimization of staycations, events, weddings, and meetings at later workshops. And I guess something dear to my heart is the whole customer journey piece. So this little buddy here, brand.com, this is particularly at this time, is such an opportunity with staycations, etc., of driving business through brand.com and driving more business direct, because particularly in the COVID times, people want reassurance that you can support the safety and hygiene elements. They want to know what's going on in your local area. They want to know where can they eat, can they get a taxi, do they have to wear a mask, you know, all that stuff. So your brand.com is really, if any time ever, now is the time that this channel needs to come to the forefront. And think about your digital journey, think about chatbots and things like that that can help answer those questions easily. Think about people searching on their mobile device and, you know, shall we go away? What's available? What can I do? You know, just think about that. And all of that will come out in the sessions that you do around optimizing brand.com, the importance of content, the design, the digital journey. I mean, this is a real hot button now, and ultimately the customer service and delighting the customer. So I hope that has given you a sense of the distribution landscape and how I see best of breed and how things should fit together in terms of connectivity. So let me just go to the summary slide, and then if there's any questions, we can pick those up. So in summary, we now understand what best of breed landscape looks like. And now what you need to do is to think about it from your own perspective in terms of the technology and systems. And as I said, print that slide off, put it next to a blank sheet of paper and start looking at yours and saying, well, what do I have and what systems do I have and does it interface? And if it interfaces, is it one way or two way? Is it manual? What's the implication of that? And think about your overall strategy, what you're trying to achieve, and what your ultimate customer journey is. So what do you want your customer experience to be, and how digital do you want to go? Because some of my customers want to be highly digital. They're more limited service hotels, particularly city centre. But I have other customers that have no intention of being digital at all because they're smaller hotels. They like the good old key, you know, they manage that through safety and hygiene, etc. But they're not interested in having the ability to check in online, the ability to get your key on your phone and swipe. It's more about the experience. So on property of being, you know, personalized, etc. So how to think about what your customer journey looks like, and then, you know, think about how the technology can enable you to do that. So it really is a blank sheet of paper approach. I would say start with a blank and then start putting your own systems in, discuss it with your team. You know, be open about what's good about what we've got, what's, you know, where could we improve. You know, I have another customer who doesn't have a front-facing customer journey, but they have digitalized the back office functions. So the way the departments, you know, communicate with each other, they have business WhatsApp, they have, you know, housekeeping and guest room management piece, which is kind of interfaced behind the scenes. So customer complaints and issue is digitized. So they've started doing the maintenance, the housekeeping, the back office sections before they start doing the customer journey bit. Think about your systems, identify your gaps. As I said, you know, the more boxes you have, quite often the higher the cost, because every box is taking a slice of the action. So think about if you have lots of boxes in your chain, where is there opportunity to refine that? And as we've said through, remember, if you're going to look for new or replacement systems, it is absolutely critical that you document your requirements. Get an Excel spreadsheet, write out, you know, if it was a PMS, write out reservations, right? What are everything under reservations? Then write, you know, room blocks or payment types or interfaces, or what. Just get it all onto an Excel spreadsheet and ratify that with every department and make that your requirements, and then go through and say, right, out of those, what is absolutely critical? What can we not operate without? And highlight that and make that your requirements that you're then evaluating vendors against. Because if you don't do that, believe me, you will end up in situations where you put systems in that can't support your business or are not rich enough. So I think I've rabbled enough. Is there any questions? Are you on mute?
It's not like me to be quiet, Sally. Ever? Ever?
It's moving, but there's nothing coming out.
That's the story of my life, Sally. No, we've just had some amazing feedback. I'm not sure if you can see the chat there, but we've just had some amazing feedback from some people in the industry that I hold under such fantastic regard. So thank you for that. But if anybody has any questions, please drop them in. As I said, just in case anyone missed it at the start, we will be running these once a week. So every Tuesday at 10 o'clock, we will have an educational webinar. Sally is just, we started with the very best, so everyone else is just
not at all.
No, I'm joking. We have got some fantastic people lined up. We've got the wonderful Harry from Umi Digital joining us next Tuesday, talking about the digital journey and how your digital journey should affect your customization, personalization and revenue strategy. So a great one to look forward to from Harry. But Sally, I think you started us off in a phenomenal place to look at kind of the structure of everything and where everything sits. And I think even for hoteliers who are as long as in the truth as I am, will understand that this landscape is changing all the time. So, you know, to get your overview of it and what's important and where we all need to be sitting is phenomenal. So thank you very much. If anyone's got any last questions, please do pop them in. As I said, this webinar won't be going out publicly. It will go out to all of you guys who attended, and we'll put it in a resource on our own website. But thank you so much, Sally. Couldn't have done this without you. Genuinely mean that. Taking time out of your calendar to do this for us. And you know, for anyone who's ran these webinars before, you'll know that there's a phenomenal amount of work goes into them, and preparing stuff and getting ready for this. So thank you so much, Sally, for your time in this today.
Oh, no problem. It's an absolute pleasure. I hope it's been useful and it's given people some, you know, food for thought.
No, definitely has. Thank you so much, guys, and talk to you soon, Sally.
Thank you. Cheers, everybody. Have a good day.
Okay, thank you. Bye-bye. Bye.